The stars looked different when you were running for your life. Commander Lisa Martinez stood on the bridge of the USS Defiance, watching the swirling colors of hyperspace fade away as her ship dropped back into normal space. The familiar hum of the engines sounded wrong now, damaged from their last fight. Sparks flew from broken panels around the bridge, and the smell of burned circuits filled the air. "Where are we?" Lisa asked her navigation officer. "Unknown system, Commander," Beth Clark replied from her station. "But the star charts show this is deep inside something called Galactic Council territory." Lisa nodded. They had been running for 3 months now, jumping from system to system, always staying ahead of the machines that hunted them. The Devourers had destroyed Earth and most of the human colonies. The USS Defiance and a few other ships were all that remained of humanity. "Commander, I'm reading massive energy signatures ahead," called out Amy Foster from the science station. "Multiple ships, very advanced technology." Through the main screen, Lisa could see them. Dozens of elegant ships that looked more like works of art than weapons of war. They moved with perfect formation, their hulls gleaming silver and blue in the light of the local star. These were not human ships. "Red alert," Lisa ordered. "All hands to battle stations." On the alien flagship, Admiral Kira Moonshadow felt the disturbance in space before her sensors detected it. As an elf, she had lived for over 500 years and commanded the Galactic Defense Fleet for the last century. Her pointed ears twitched as she sensed something wrong in the harmony of space around them. "Admiral, unknown vessel detected," reported her tactical officer. "The design is completely foreign. It appears to be damaged." Kira studied the strange ship on her screen. It was ugly compared to elven vessels, built for function rather than beauty. Dark metal plates covered its hull, and she could see weapon ports that looked crude but effective. The ship's energy signature was unlike anything in the galactic database. "How did they get past our border defenses?" Kira asked. "Unknown, Admiral. They simply appeared in our core systems." In the council chambers on the nearby space station, Zara Veltar received the urgent message about the unknown ship. As a member of the reptilian Saurian race, she had served as a diplomat for decades. Her scaled skin reflected the light as she moved quickly through the corridors toward the emergency meeting room. "What do we know?" Zara asked as she entered, the chamber filled with representatives from 12 different alien species. "Very little," replied Counselor Lyra Starweaver, a young elf who served as an aide to Admiral Moonshadow. "The ship appeared without warning in the Andorian system. Our computers cannot identify its origin or technology." "Could it be a scout from the Outer Rim pirates?" asked another counselor. "No," Lyra shook her head. "This is something else entirely." Back on the USS Defiance, Lisa watched as the alien ships moved to surround them. She had fought against impossible odds before, but never against an entire civilization. "Commander, they're powering weapons," Beth reported from her station. "Are they hostile?" Amy asked. "Unknown. But we can't afford to find out the hard way," Lisa replied. "Shields up. Charge weapons, but do not target them yet." The alien ships formed a perfect sphere around the human vessel. Their weapons began to glow with bright energy that looked beautiful and deadly at the same time. Admiral Kira Moonshadow watched the unknown ship's response to their tactical formation. The vessel had raised some kind of protective barrier and armed its weapons, but it had not fired first. This showed either wisdom or fear. "Admiral, should we disable their ship?" asked her weapons officer. "Not yet. Hail them first. Let us see if they can communicate." On the USS Defiance, Beth picked up the incoming transmission. "Commander, we're being hailed. The signal is complex, but our computers are starting to translate it." Lisa straightened her uniform. "Put it on screen." The image that appeared showed a tall, elegant being with pointed ears and silver hair that seemed to glow with its own light. Her eyes were ancient but sharp, and she wore a uniform that looked both military and ceremonial. "Unknown vessel, you have entered Galactic Council space without permission," Admiral Kira said through the translator. "Identify yourself and state your intentions." Lisa took a deep breath. This was humanity's first contact with an alien civilization, and everything depended on the next few minutes. "I am Commander Lisa Martinez of the human vessel USS Defiance," she replied. "We seek sanctuary. My people are refugees fleeing an enemy that threatens all life." Kira raised an eyebrow. The being called itself human, a species not in any galactic records. But something in the human's voice suggested desperate honesty. "You speak of threats, yet you bring weapons into our space," Kira replied. "We bring warnings," Lisa said firmly. "The enemy that destroyed our worlds is following us. They consume everything in their path. If they find this galaxy, your people will face the same fate as mine." The bridge fell silent as both sides considered their options. On the elven ships, Kira studied the readings from the human vessel. Their technology was different but sophisticated. The ship showed signs of recent battle damage, supporting their claim of being refugees. "Commander Martinez, you will submit to boarding and inspection," Kira finally said. "If you resist, we will disable your ship." Lisa looked around at her crew. Amy Foster nodded slightly, indicating that their sensors showed no immediate deception from the aliens. Beth Clark kept her hands ready over the weapons controls, waiting for orders. "Understood, Admiral," Lisa replied. "But I must warn you again about the danger following us. We don't have much time." As the first alien shuttles approached the USS Defiance, neither side knew that their meeting would change the fate of the entire galaxy. The Devourers were already moving through hyperspace, following the trail left by the human ship. Soon, the peaceful Galactic Council would learn why humanity had earned its reputation as the most dangerous species in their part of the universe. Council Station Harmony floated in space like a crystal flower, its transparent walls reflecting the light from 3 different suns. Inside the main conference room, tension filled the air as representatives from 12 alien species gathered for an emergency session. Admiral Kira Moonshadow sat at the curved table, her silver hair catching the light as she reviewed the reports from the human ship inspection. "The boarding team found no evidence of deception," Kira announced to the assembled council. "The humans appear to be genuine refugees. Their ship shows extensive battle damage from weapons we do not recognize." Zara Veltar shifted in her chair, her reptilian features showing concern. As the council speaker, she had the difficult job of maintaining peace among the different species. "But Admiral, they appeared in our core systems without any warning. How is that possible?" "Their technology is different from ours," Kira replied. "They use something they call hyperspace drives instead of our jump gates. It allows them to travel without using the established routes." Young Counselor Lyra Starweaver leaned forward eagerly. Unlike many of the older elves, she found the humans fascinating rather than threatening. "This could be a great opportunity for technological exchange. Think of what we could learn from each other." "Or it could be a great danger," growled Counselor Thorak, a massive bear-like alien from the Ursine Confederacy. "These humans claim to be refugees, but they carry enough weapons to destroy a small fleet." In the guest quarters assigned to the human delegation, Commander Lisa Martinez sat across from Beth Clark, who had been chosen as their primary diplomat due to her quick learning of alien languages. Dr. Amy Foster stood by the window, studying the alien technology that surrounded them. "The medical facilities here are incredible," Amy said softly. "They've eliminated diseases that still trouble us. But their approach is so different from human medicine." "Different how?" Lisa asked. "They focus on harmony and balance. We focus on fighting the disease directly. Both methods work, but for different reasons." Beth looked up from the translation device she was studying. "I'm starting to understand their language better. The elves think in much longer time periods than we do. When Admiral Moonshadow talks about quick decisions, she means something that might take weeks." "We don't have weeks," Lisa said grimly. "The Devourers could arrive any day." Meanwhile, in her private chambers, Admiral Kira Moonshadow reviewed the tactical recordings from the human ship. Their weapons were crude by elven standards, using physical projectiles instead of elegant energy beams. But the tactical data showed something disturbing. These simple weapons had been effective against an enemy that her own advanced systems might not be able to handle. A soft chime announced a visitor. Lyra Starweaver entered, her young face showing excitement and concern in equal measure. "Admiral, I've been talking with the human doctor," Lyra said. "She's shared some of their medical knowledge with our healers. They're amazed by human adaptability." "Adaptability?" Kira asked. "Humans heal faster than any species we know. They can survive in environments that would kill most of us, and their immune systems are incredibly aggressive. Kira considered this information. Perhaps that explains their military tactics. They survive through aggression rather than avoiding conflict. There's something else, Lyra continued. Dr. Foster has offered to help with the plague affecting the Centauri colonies. Our healers have been working on it for months with little progress. The plague had indeed been troubling. 3 different alien species in the Centauri system had fallen ill with a mysterious disease that their best medical minds could not cure. Thousands had died, and the Council was running out of options. Very well, Kira decided. We will allow the human doctor to examine our medical data. 2 days later, Dr. Amy Foster stood in the main medical center of Council Station Harmony, surrounded by alien healers from 6 different species. The head of the medical team was a tall, ethereal being from the Luminar race, whose name translated, roughly, to Bright Healer. Dr. Foster, we appreciate your offer to help, Bright Healer said through the translator. But this disease has resisted all our treatments for months. Amy studied the medical data on the holographic displays around her. The information was presented in ways completely different from human medical records. But the underlying biology was becoming clear. I think I see the problem, Amy said after several hours of study. You're trying to restore balance to the affected systems, but this isn't a natural disease. What do you mean? Asked Bright Healer. It's artificial. Someone or something created this plague as a weapon. It's designed to get stronger when you try to heal it gently. You need to attack it directly. The alien doctors looked shocked. The idea of attacking a disease instead of harmonizing with it went against everything they believed about medicine. That's barbaric, said one of the Saurian healers. Maybe, Amy replied, but it works. She began working with the alien medical team, teaching them human approaches to fighting disease. It was difficult because their equipment was designed for gentle healing, not aggressive treatment. But Amy's knowledge of combat medicine proved valuable. While the medical teams worked, Admiral Kira Moonshadow received disturbing news from the border systems. Long-range sensors had detected something massive moving through space toward Council territory. The readings make no sense, reported her science officer. It appears to be a fleet of enormous size, but the ships don't match any known designs. Kira felt a cold fear settle in her stomach. She had lived long enough to recognize the signs of approaching disaster. She immediately called for Commander Martinez to be brought to the bridge of her flagship. When Lisa arrived, Kira showed her the sensor readings. Is this what you were running from? Lisa studied the data, and her face went pale. That's them, the Devourers. They're bigger than when we last saw them. How long do we have? Maybe 3 days before they reach the outer systems. Maybe less. Kira activated the emergency communication system. All Council ships return to base immediately. Prepare for possible hostile contact. Admiral, Lisa said urgently, your ships aren't ready for this kind of fight. The Devourers adapt to any weapon you use against them. Energy weapons become useless after the first few shots. Then what do you suggest? We need to work together. Human tactics with alien technology. But most of your people won't trust us enough for that. Kira looked out at the beautiful formations of Council ships gathering around the station. They had maintained peace for centuries through superior technology and careful diplomacy. The idea of working with crude human military tactics was almost unthinkable, but the sensor readings didn't lie. Something was coming that could destroy everything they had built. Commander Martinez, Kira said finally, I believe we need to have a very serious conversation with the full Council. As the 2 leaders headed toward the emergency session, neither knew that Dr. Amy Foster had just achieved a breakthrough with the plague. Her aggressive treatment had cured the first patients, proving that human methods could work alongside alien technology. The stage was set for an alliance that neither side wanted, but both desperately needed. The border system of Kepler 442 had been a peaceful mining colony until yesterday. Now it was gone. Where 3 planets and 2 billion aliens had lived and worked, only twisted metal and dark energy remained. The Devourers had arrived. Admiral Kira Moonshadow stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching the long-range scanner reports with growing horror. The enemy fleet was unlike anything in galactic records. Each ship was the size of a small moon, covered in dark metal that seemed to absorb light itself. Worst of all, there were hundreds of them. How is this possible? asked Lyra Starweaver, who had been promoted to tactical advisor after her success working with the humans. Our border sensors should have given us weeks of warning. They don't travel through normal space, Commander Lisa Martinez explained, from her position at a makeshift human console. The Devourers use some kind of dark energy drive. They can appear anywhere without warning. Kira studied the tactical display showing both fleets. The Council had assembled nearly 1,000 ships, the largest military force in galactic history. But compared to the massive Devourer vessels, they looked like insects facing giants. What can you tell us about their weapons? Kira asked. They don't use weapons like you understand them, Lisa replied grimly. They use conversion beams that turn matter into energy, then absorb that energy to make themselves stronger. Every shot that hits them makes them more powerful. Engineer Kate Rivers, who had spent months studying captured Devourer technology, worked frantically at a nearby station. Her hands moved quickly over alien controls as she tried to adapt human weapon systems to elven ships. Commander, I've finished installing the kinetic projectile systems on 12 of their cruisers, Kate reported. But it's not going to be enough. We need more time. Time we don't have, Lisa said, watching as the enemy fleet began moving toward the next inhabited system. In the council chambers, panic was spreading among the representatives. Some species demanded immediate evacuation of their homeworlds. Others wanted to negotiate with the invaders. A few, led by Councillor Thorak, blamed the humans for bringing this disaster to their galaxy. The humans led these monsters to us, Thorak roared, his massive form intimidating the smaller council members. We should surrender them to save ourselves. Zara Veltar tried to maintain order, but even her diplomatic skills were being tested. We must work together, or we all fall separately. Young Mira Dawnblade, an elven war strategist who had studied ancient military history, stood up to address the council. Unlike most elves, she had always been fascinated by the brutal efficiency of historical warfare. Counselors, our energy weapons have kept peace for centuries, Mira said. But peacekeeping weapons are not war-fighting weapons. These humans have been at war for years. They know how to fight and survive. Their methods are savage, protested a Centauri delegate. Savage but effective, Mira replied. I propose we combine their experience with our technology. The debate continued for hours while the Devourer fleet moved closer to populated systems. Finally, Admiral Kira made the decision that would determine the fate of the galaxy. I'm taking a combined fleet to engage the enemy, she announced. Human and council ships fighting together. The first battle took place in the empty space between star systems. Admiral Kira commanded the council ships from her flagship, while Commander Martinez coordinated the human vessels from the USS Defiance. The plan was simple in concept, but difficult in execution. Council ships would engage the enemy first with their long-range energy weapons. When the Devourers adapted to those weapons, the human ships would attack with kinetic projectiles and explosive missiles. The hope was that constantly changing tactics would prevent the enemy from adapting quickly enough. All ships, begin attack pattern Alpha, Kira commanded. The Council fleet opened fire with beautiful streams of coherent energy that lit up space like a rainbow. The beams struck the lead Devourer ships, and for a moment it seemed like they were having an effect. Dark armor plating began to glow and crack under the assault. But then the enemy adapted. The dark hulls began absorbing the energy, converting it into power for their own systems. Within minutes, the Council weapons became useless. Phase 2, Lisa ordered. All human ships, engage with kinetic weapons. The human ships moved forward, their crude but effective weapons launching streams of metal projectiles at incredible speeds. Unlike energy weapons, these physical attacks couldn't be absorbed or converted. They punched through Devourer armor and caused real damage. But the enemy was learning. The Devourer ships began moving in ways that reduced the impact of kinetic weapons. They released clouds of dark matter that slowed down incoming projectiles. They're adapting too quickly, Kate Rivers reported from her engineering station. We need something they can't predict. That's when Dr. Amy Foster made an unexpected contribution to the battle. She had been studying Devourer remains from previous fights and discovered something important. Commander, the enemy ships have biological components, Amy announced over the communication system. They're not just machines. They're part living creature. What does that mean? Lisa asked. It means they might be vulnerable to biological weapons. Disease, toxins, things that affect living tissue. Mira Dawnblade immediately understood the implications. Admiral, we have biotoxin weapons designed for planetary sterilization. They're forbidden by council law, but these are desperate times. Kira hesitated for only a moment. Using biological weapons went against everything the council believed in, but watching entire worlds disappear was worse than breaking ancient laws. Deploy the biotoxins, she ordered. The elven ships launched specialized missiles containing engineered diseases that attacked the biological components of the Devourer ships. For the first time since the battle began, the enemy fleet showed signs of real distress. Several of the massive ships began losing power and drifting out of formation, but the victory was temporary. The surviving Devourer ships began adapting to the biological weapons, developing immunity within hours. We're running out of options, Kira said quietly. No, Lisa replied firmly. We're learning how to fight them. Each attack teaches us something new, but we need more ships and more time to prepare. The first battle ended with both sides withdrawing. The Council fleet had lost nearly 100 ships, but had gained valuable information about their enemy. The Devourers had been slowed, but not stopped. As the fleets regrouped, new alliances began forming between species that had never worked together before. Human engineers shared their knowledge with elven scientists. Council medical officers learned human combat medicine techniques. Most importantly, military commanders from different species began developing new tactical approaches that combined the best of all their methods. This is just the beginning, Lisa told Admiral Kira as they reviewed battle reports. The real war starts now. Kira nodded, her ancient eyes showing determination instead of fear for the first time since the crisis began. Then we must be ready for it. The secret meeting took place in the ancient elven archives beneath the surface of Silverleaf, the elven homeworld. Admiral Kira Moonshadow sat across from Commander Lisa Martinez in a chamber filled with crystal records dating back thousands of years. Between them lay tactical displays showing the combined fleet's current status. Some of my people want to surrender the humans to save themselves, Kira said quietly. Counselor Valen leads a faction that believes humanity is a curse upon our galaxy. Lisa nodded grimly. And some of my crew think we should steal a few ships and run deeper into space. They don't trust aliens to fight when things get really bad. Do you trust me? Kira asked directly. Lisa met her eyes. With my life, do you trust me? With the future of my entire species. The alliance between humans and the Galactic Council had grown stronger over the past month, but it remained fragile. 3 more systems had fallen to the Devourers, while the combined fleet learned to work together. Each battle taught them new tactics, but the cost in lives was enormous. Engineer Kate Rivers had been working around the clock with elven technicians to create hybrid weapons that combined human kinetic designs with alien energy systems. Her latest creation was being tested on the USS Defiance, which now carried both human missile tubes and elven plasma cannons. The energy output is incredible, reported Arya Moonwhisper, a young elven engineer who had volunteered to work with human technology. But the power consumption is enormous. We can only fire these hybrid weapons for short periods. That might be enough, Kate replied, if we can hit them hard and fast before they adapt. In the medical bay, Dr. Amy Foster worked alongside alien healers to treat the growing number of wounded from both species. The cooperation between human and council medical teams had produced remarkable results. Human combat medicine combined with alien healing technology was saving lives that would have been lost using either method alone. Doctor, we have incoming casualties from the Vegan system battle, announced Grace Miller, a human pilot who had volunteered for medical transport duty. Grace had also become the first human to successfully pilot an elven fighter, adapting human reflexes to alien flight controls. Prep the hybrid surgical suite, Amy ordered, and get me a team of both human and elven surgeons. The real test of the Alliance came when the Devourers launched their assault on Silverleaf itself. The elven homeworld was protected by the most advanced defense systems in the galaxy, but the enemy had learned from their previous battles. They arrived not as a single fleet, but as multiple smaller groups attacking from different directions. They're using our own tactics against us, observed Mira Dawnblade from the tactical center. Unpredictable attack patterns, multiple vectors, constant adaptation. Admiral Kira stood in the command center deep beneath the planet's surface, coordinating the defense with leaders from across the galaxy. The chamber was filled with holographic displays showing the battle raging in space above them. "The orbital platforms are holding, but barely," reported Lyra Starweaver. "The enemy is concentrating on our shipyards. They want to stop us from building more hybrid ships," Lisa realized. "Kate's designs are working too well." The space battle above Silverleaf was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Council ships moved in perfect formation while human vessels darted between them in seemingly random patterns. The combination confused the Devourer targeting systems long enough for concentrated attacks to succeed. Grace Miller led a squadron of mixed human and elven fighters against the enemy, bombers threatening the surface. Her unique ability to fly both types of craft allowed her to coordinate tactics that neither species could have managed alone. "All fighters, pattern Delta 7, Grace commanded. "Elven ships take point. Human ships provide cover fire." The fighter battle was vicious and close range. Elven craft used their superior speed and maneuverability, while human ships provided the heavy firepower needed to penetrate Devourer armor. The combination proved effective, but the cost was high. On the surface, civilian evacuation proceeded. Under the direction of Cleo Nexus, a cybernetic alien who could communicate with multiple species simultaneously, her unique abilities allowed her to coordinate the massive evacuation effort while maintaining military communications. "Evacuation shuttles Alpha through Gamma are clear," Cleo reported. "Beginning launch sequence for Delta through Theta groups." The evacuation had been Lisa's idea. Instead of trying to hold every position, they would save as many people as possible while using the planet's defense systems to inflict maximum damage on the attackers. "It's a fighting retreat," Lisa had explained to the Council. "We hurt them while protecting what matters most." The strategy required enormous trust between species. Human ships had to rely on elven shields and weapons, while elven crews had to accept human tactical decisions that seemed reckless by their standards. The turning point came when engineer Kate Rivers made a desperate decision. The main orbital shipyard was about to be destroyed, taking with it the only facility capable of producing hybrid weapons. Instead of evacuating, she chose to overload the shipyard's power systems. "Kate, what are you doing?" Lisa demanded over the communication link. "Creating the biggest explosion these things have ever seen," Kate replied calmly. "The power cores in this facility can be linked together. When they go off, they'll take out half the enemy fleet. You'll die in the explosion." "Maybe. But the Alliance will survive." Aria Moonwhisper, who had been working beside Kate for weeks, refused to abandon her human partner. "I'm staying too. Someone needs to help with the elven control systems." The explosion that followed lit up the entire star system. The shipyard's destruction created a massive energy wave that crippled dozens of Devourer ships. But more importantly, the sacrifice of Kate Rivers and Aria Moonwhisper became a symbol of the alliance between species. "They died as partners," Admiral Kira announced to the combined fleet. "Human and elf, working together to protect all life in the galaxy." The defense of Silverleaf succeeded, but at enormous cost. Entire fleets had been destroyed. Thousands of brave warriors from multiple species had died, and the Devourer threat was stronger than ever. But something important had changed. The alliance was no longer just a military necessity. It had become a bond forged in shared sacrifice and mutual respect. Commander Lisa Martinez and Admiral Kira Moonshadow stood together in the ruins of the Orbital Command Center, looking out at the damaged but surviving fleet. "What happens now?" Kira asked. "Now we take the fight to them," Lisa replied. "We've learned how to hurt them. Kate's weapon designs are being transmitted to every surviving shipyard. Dr. Foster's medical techniques are being shared with healers across the galaxy. And the political opposition? After what happened here, I think they understand that we're stronger together than apart." The two leaders watched as human and alien ships worked side by side to rescue survivors and salvage technology from the battlefield. The sight of species that had never trusted each other now risking their lives for their allies was the most hopeful thing either had seen since the war began. The alliance had survived its greatest test, but the final confrontation with the Devourers was still to come. The final battle began not with grand strategy, but with a simple discovery. Dr. Amy Foster was examining Devourer technology in her laboratory when she noticed something that had been missed in all previous studies. The alien machines didn't just adapt to weapons and tactics. They learned by creating perfect mathematical models of everything they encountered. That's their weakness, Amy announced to the emergency council meeting. They can't adapt to something that has no logical pattern. Admiral Kira Moonshadow and Commander Lisa Martinez studied Amy's research data with growing excitement. After months of fighting a seemingly impossible enemy, they finally had a real chance for victory. Explain it simply, Lisa requested. The Devourers use advanced mathematics to predict and counter our attacks, Amy continued, but human behavior often defies mathematical prediction. Your tendency to make choices that seem completely irrational is something their systems can't model. So, we need to be more unpredictable? Kira asked. Not just unpredictable, completely illogical? We need tactics that make no sense even to us. The plan that emerged from this discovery was unlike anything in military history. Instead of careful coordination, the combined fleet would attack using deliberately chaotic methods. Each ship captain would make independent decisions based on random factors rather than tactical logic. Admiral Julia Cross, who had assumed command of the human fleet after arriving with reinforcements from the outer colonies, studied the battle plan with amazement. This is either brilliant or completely insane, Julia said. With humans, it's usually both, Kira replied with something that might have been humor. The preparation for the final assault took place at the hidden shipyard of Nova Station, built inside a massive asteroid in an unnamed system. Here, engineers from a dozen species worked together to create weapons and ships that combined technologies in ways that should have been impossible. Luna Silverleaf, an elven priestess who had joined the military effort, provided spiritual guidance to the mixed crews. Her presence helped ease the cultural tensions that still existed between species. We fight not just for survival, Luna told a gathering of warriors from multiple worlds. We fight for the right of different peoples to exist together in peace. Nova Chen, a young woman whose mother had been human and father had been from the crystalline Nexari race, represented the future that the Alliance was fighting to protect. Her unique background allowed her to bridge cultural gaps that others found impossible to cross. My existence proves that cooperation between species is not just possible but natural, Nova said to the War Council. The Devourers want to eliminate that diversity. We cannot let them succeed. The final assault began with the largest fleet in galactic history, jumping simultaneously into the Devourer staging area near the galactic rim. Over 3,000 ships from dozens of species appeared in space above the enemy's main base, an artificial planet constructed from the matter of consumed worlds. But instead of attacking in formation, each ship followed its own randomly generated mission. Some vessels charged directly at the largest enemy ships, while others attacked empty space. Human captains made decisions by flipping coins. Elven commanders consulted ancient poetry for tactical guidance. The result was chaos on a scale that defied comprehension. The Devourer defense systems, designed to counter logical military tactics, found themselves facing attacks that followed no pattern at all. Commander Lisa Martinez led the USS Defiance and a squadron of mixed ships directly toward the enemy command vessel. Her attack plan had been determined by asking her crew to suggest completely random maneuvers. All ships, execute pattern Banana Tuesday, Lisa ordered, using code words generated by a random language algorithm. The human and alien ships scattered in all directions before suddenly converging on a single point that seemed to have no tactical value. The maneuver made no sense, but it worked. The Devourer targeting systems couldn't predict where the next attack would come from. Admiral Kira Moonshadow commanded the main assault force using tactics based on ancient elven dream sequences. Her ships moved in patterns that looked like flowing water rather than military formations. The beauty of the movement confused enemy sensors designed to track conventional battle groups. All vessels flow like the silver river under moonlight, Kira commanded, using poetic language that her crews understood, but the enemy could not decode. The breakthrough came when Grace Miller, now commanding a squadron of hybrid fighters, accidentally discovered that the Devourer command ship had a critical weakness. While trying to escape from overwhelming enemy fire, she flew her damaged fighter directly through the command ship's main communication array. "That's it," she reported excitedly. The big ship can't adapt if it can't communicate with the others. The realization sparked a new phase of the battle. Instead of trying to destroy the massive Devourer ships, the combined fleet focused on disrupting their ability to share information. Small, fast ships darted between the enemy vessels, cutting communication lines and jamming data transmissions. Dr. Amy Foster joined the final assault aboard a specially equipped medical ship. Her job was to deploy biological weapons that would interfere with the living components of Devourer technology. But unlike the previous biological attacks, these weapons were designed to be completely random in their effects. Deploying Chaos Virus, Amy announced as her ship released clouds of engineered organisms that would cause unpredictable changes in enemy systems. The Chaos Virus worked beyond all expectations. Devourer ships began behaving erratically as their biological components received conflicting instructions. Some vessels fired on their own allies, others shut down completely. A few began moving in circles for no apparent reason. The climax of the battle came when Admiral Kira, Commander Lisa, and Speaker Zara Veltar led a boarding party onto the main Devourer command ship. Their mission was to reach the central control matrix and shut down the entire enemy network. The interior of the enemy ship was a nightmare of dark corridors filled with machinery that seemed more alive than mechanical. The boarding party fought their way through automated defenses using tactics that changed every few minutes based on completely random decisions. Left or right? Lisa asked at a corridor junction. I had fish for breakfast, so left, Zara replied, making a decision based on her meal choice rather than tactical analysis. The random approach continued to confuse enemy defenses. Security systems, designed to counter military tactics, couldn't handle decisions based on breakfast choices, childhood memories, and favorite colors. They reached the central chamber to find a massive organic computer that pulsed with dark energy. The machine was beautiful and terrifying at the same time, clearly the product of a civilization far older than any they had encountered. How do we shut it down? Kira asked. We don't, Amy Foster said, joining them in the chamber. We give it something it can't process. Amy activated a device that began broadcasting every piece of random information the Alliance had collected. Poems, cooking recipes, children's songs, mathematical equations with no solutions, and stories that made no logical sense. The effect was immediate. The organic computer began to convulse as it tried to process information that followed no patterns. Lights flickered throughout the ship as the Central Intelligence struggled to understand data that had no meaning. It's working, Zara announced as Devourer ships throughout the system began shutting down. They can't adapt to pure randomness. The Great Devourer fleet, which had consumed entire galaxies, was defeated not by superior weapons or brilliant tactics, but by the simple refusal to make sense. The organic computers that controlled them couldn't function when faced with information that defied all logic. In the aftermath of the victory, representatives from hundreds of worlds gathered on Council Station Harmony to establish new principles of galactic cooperation. The alliance that had begun as a desperate necessity became the foundation for a new kind of civilization. Admiral Kira Moonshadow and Commander Lisa Martinez stood together in the main assembly hall, watching as species that had never met before signed treaties of mutual cooperation. Do you think it will last? Kira asked. The peace? Probably not forever, Lisa replied honestly. But the connections between our peoples, those will endure. Dr. Amy Foster established the first interspecies medical exchange, combining healing traditions from across the galaxy. Engineer Kate Rivers, who had survived the shipyard explosion despite all expectations, led teams developing new technologies that no single species could have created alone. The final scene took place 1 year later as mixed crews of humans, elves, and other aliens worked together to rebuild worlds damaged by the war. Children from different species played together in the rebuilt cities, speaking languages that combined words from multiple cultures. Commander Lisa Martinez, now Admiral Martinez, stood on the bridge of the USS Harmony, the first ship designed entirely through interspecies cooperation. Her crew included officers from 12 different worlds, working together with an efficiency that amazed observers. Admiral, we're receiving a distress call from the Andromeda Galaxy, reported her communications officer, a young Centauri named Bright Star. Set course for Andromeda, Lisa ordered. It sounds like someone needs help. Admiral Kira Moonshadow, now serving as the first director of interspecies defense, smiled as she watched the mixed fleet prepare for departure. The alliance had grown from a desperate wartime necessity into something much more valuable. They had learned that the strength of civilization came not from uniformity, but from the successful combination of different ways of thinking, fighting, and living. The galaxy would face new challenges in the years to come, but it would face them together. The age of isolation was over. The age of cooperation had begun.